Stories you care about. WLBB, Carrollton, News Talk 1330, FM 106.3.
And good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. I'm your host, Josh Engel. Today, June 23rd, 8:30 in the morning. You're listening to Community Voice here. My guest in the studio today, we have the one and only Paula Burke, my good friend. She is the county ag agent, pretty much all around the boss lady up at the Ag Center. I've known her for several years now, yes. And I'm very glad that you were joining us today to talk.
Thanks for having me. Always happy to be with you and talk about agriculture.
Excellent. A very important topic, that too. So why don't we just get right into it? Everybody was affected in their own way by the COVID-19 pandemic. Pretty much everyone we've spoken with the last few months have, sort of broken down ways that they've tried to accommodate the CDC's rules and whatnot and ensure the safety of their patrons. I would love to ask you the same question, honestly. What are some developments at the Ag Center? What are some ways that you guys have, handled the pandemic?
Well, absolutely. So we're obviously located at the Ag Center. That's where our office is. And, early on, we immediately had to stop doing face-to-face meetings. Those of you that are familiar with our extension programmings, we meet and bring a lot of people together. And obviously that kind of came to a screeching halt. And at the moment, we are still not planning any UGA extension meetings. Things like our 4-H camp have been canceled through July. We were going to have a 4-H lamb show next month, and we've decided to cancel some of those things because we're getting direction from UGA of when we can do face-to-face meetings. But when everything started going on, we're very computer-oriented as staff, and eventually we did go home for a little while. We made sure we kept up with the mail and people were dropping off soil samples and different things. And nobody, hopefully no one would say they didn't get help from us because even though when we were home, some of our staff lived close by, we made sure things happened. I've been on more Zoom meetings than I've ever done in my life. I know how to host Zoom meetings now. I always was a participant, but now I can host them. And one of the things I did immediately was plan a bunch of presentations and have it out there. And we've actually posted things on Facebook that people can go through our Facebook page and see where they can rewatch the recordings. But that was my immediate thought of I need to help getting information out to our clientele, and really the only way we could do that was via Zoom. And so we were really prepared for that. UJ Extension, for a number of years, we were already using Zoom a lot and doing Zoom type meetings just as staff. And so it was a really easy transition for us. We already had cameras on our computers and things like that. So I worked from home for a few weeks, and I'll tell you, I was busy. There, a few people said, "So how'd you enjoy your vacation?" I said, "What vacation?"
Yeah, before the show, we were talking. You were like, "No, I was wide open." Learning about what we should be doing, how to help people. Just doing the different programs I did, and all that took time. I had a new staff person start, in March. She came one day to the office, and then I didn't see her again, physically for how many weeks later. So farmers still called. They emailed, we had lots of conversations. We tried to do programming for them. One of the things, being it was springtime, everyone loves to get their soil samples done. And so we made arrangements. Thankfully, the UJ lab in Athens was still doing limited testing, but we were able to still do soil testing. So I set up a temporary drop box that people could drop off their soil. And then when the next time we were in the office, we'd contact them, thankfully we can accept credit cards at the office. Not all county offices can do that. So we can accept credit cards, so we could just call them for their payment, so no one had to leave cash and feel uncomfortable. And we would ship off the soil samples, and we always email them the results. We've always done that. And that was very well received. And to me, it was a no-brainer to just continue that permanently. So when you come up to up to the Ag Center, as you walk into that glass door, you'll see on your left-hand side, there's a brand new black mailbox sitting there. It says UJ
or I think it says a UJ Extension drop box. And so, if it's on a Saturday and you want to run up because you're in town and you want to drop off your soil sample, you can. And then on Monday we'll get it and we'll clarify with you, any questions that we would have and get your payment. And people are continuing to use that. The other big thing we tried to do was identify diseases or insects, and we did that a lot with people, again, dropping it off or sending us pictures. So we really were able, a little bit differently than what we're used to, because a lot of people just always want to come into the office. So we definitely made sure people got things that they needed and continuing. So now when you come up to the Ag Center, for right now, we are asking that we would like you to wear a mask, but obviously we can't require it. Just one person at a time. If you've ever been in our office, we have a counter there and we have a plexiglass shield, and we ask you just to stay there and we'll help folks right at the counter. So we're keeping people from walking down the hallway and visiting with staff. We'll come out to them as needed, depending on who needs to assist the client.
Perfect. Now, and you briefly mentioned earlier the online resources that you had available. I wanted to make sure listeners knew where they could find those resources.
Absolutely. So our website is www.extension.uga.edu. And if you go to that, there's a ton of information. We had a lot of COVID-19 information that was helpful, especially in the beginning of this. There's a tab there that's called Publications, and just about anything you want to know about, you type in tomatoes and you'll have more reading literature than you know what to do with. There's also a calendar section, and that was something I wanted to mention this morning. All the different programs that are going on across the state are listed there by the extension staff and what programs they have coming up. So right now, you could attend a fruit seminar or a beekeeping workshop right from the comfort of your home, and it might be held in South Georgia or somewhere, and you can participate online. So right now that's a lot of what's listed there, because we're not currently doing large extension face-to-face meetings at all right now.
You think we're going to get spoiled from this? That beats having to drive all the way to South Georgia.
I think it'll depend. I think some people that, like using the computer have found it wonderful. They can get all this information very easily without leaving any place. But then I'm a big proponent of still having that one-on-one contact so you can ask questions. And a lot of times you can still ask those questions. If it's a pre-recorded recording, obviously you can't. But we were in the middle of doing our Master Gardener, new Master Gardener training when this all hit, and we had to literally finish it by doing Zoom sessions and bringing the presenter on and doing their program for them. And you kind of, for that particular group, they kind of lose their bonding opportunity to get to know each other, to get to know me and work on projects. And when they're learning about insects, the best way to learn about them is not in a book, but to actually see them and touch them and hands-on. So, there's something to be said about having that face-to-face opportunity. Another program I was in the middle of was our Journeyman Farmer certification program. We had to finish that online. But part of that program has always been doing a farm visit, and we haven't been able to do that. And I'm hoping maybe by fall we can bring that group back together and kind of finish that up, to actually go to a vegetable farm and see how someone is operating and touch it and smell it and see it and all that goes with it. So I think we'll find a balance. I don't think we're not ever going to do face-to-face meetings again. We're not going to totally go virtual. I do not see that happening. But at the same time, we prove that we can provide a lot of information to people all over the place. And kind of my final thought on that, since we've been not necessarily planning a lot of face-to-face meetings, we in Carroll County at the Extension Office, we've ramped up our online Facebook and a little bit of Instagram, but on our Facebook page. And I think last month we had like over 44,000 reaches, which is incredible for us. Maybe it used to be about 9 or 10,000, but everything that's been going on, all the things we've been doing, posting our Buffalo Creek hunt. We're doing a scavenger hunt up at the Buffalo Creek Garden right now. This week is Pollinator Week, so be on the lookout for really cool videos of local people and their pollinator gardens and getting a little insight of how they're attracting pollinators. So my staff and they've just been coming up with some really cool and exciting ideas to help educating people.
You might have lost that hands-on dimension to this education, and we that will come back. But I mean, hey, who knows? Just through this situation, I mean, with that many with that many touches, I mean, you might have reached tons of new people that
absolutely
that are becoming invested in this world,
and hopefully we'll be able to retain them. Maybe they'll, now that they know about us, we always seem to be the best kept secret for some reason. Despite all the things we do, a lot of people know about us, but there's still such a huge audience that doesn't. And hopefully we've inspired them that once we are doing face-to-face programs again, that they'll attend.
Now, before we take our first break, I did want to mention, unlike a lot of industries, a lot of businesses or organizations that have been hit during the pandemic, some folks had to be laid off, some folks had to be furloughed. The Ag Center is very fortunate to be hiring some new positions.
Yes and no. Right now we do have 2 open positions. They're called SNAP Ed program assistants. It's through our Family and Consumer Science program. Victoria Taylor is our, she's been with us a while, but she's now our full-time fax agent, and we're going to be hiring 2 full-time program assistants that will work with her on delivering SNAP education to people in the community. And one position will be located here in Carroll County, and another one will be in Heard County, but they'll all be under the workings and direction of Victoria. So the reason why we can do this hiring right now is because it comes through a federal grant through the USDA that UGA gets. Some of our otherwise, UGA is actually kind of in a hiring freeze at the moment. I just had a new administrative assistant start last week, but she's kind of starting part-time because of some of the funding and waiting for UGA monies to be finalized with the state budget. So it's not all perfect, but thank God for some grant funds through a great grant program that UGA gets with the SNAP Ed program, and we're able to do that. I'm hoping as we move forward and the state budget gets settled, then we can move forward with getting back up to fully staffed. So if anyone is interested in our SNAP Ed position, they can contact Victoria at our extension office. Our number is 770-836-8546. Or if you go to ugajobsearch.com, and you'll want the Carroll County Fax Program Assistant SNAP Ed position. And it is full-time. And when you work for UGA, you get benefits, retirement, health insurance, all that great stuff. So we're fortunate to hopefully be hiring 2 of those folks soon.
Hey, thank God for grant funds. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I do want to mention, you do need to have some sort of nutrition background because you're going to be talking and teaching people about nutrition. So we are going to be looking for folks that have an interest or a background in nutrition.
Sure. Well, if you have that interest and/or background, definitely reach out to Paula and/or Victoria, and hey, get on with a great organization. We're going to take our first break here, but when we come back, we're going to speak briefly about the meat shortage that has been making the rounds in the news cycle for the last few weeks and months, as well as some gardening tips from the experts, some pitfalls and things to avoid when planning your garden. So stay with us.
At Oak Mountain Academy, our daily schedule includes convocation, prayer, and the Pledge of Allegiance. By doing so, we build a family-like community where all students grow and flourish, and personal faith is encouraged. Through community service and a historical approach to biblical study, our students are taught the value of the warrior way, honesty, respect, and responsibility. Oak Mountain Academy, we are a family creating legacies. To learn more, visit oakmountain.us.
For more than 70 years, you have turned to Tanner Health System for your healthcare needs. As our community moves forward, Tanner is here for you. Strong, safe, and close to home. Routine medical appointments, urgent elective surgeries, and imaging are back on the calendar at our hospitals and Tanner Medical Group practices. With the safety of our patients, staff, and community always our top priority. Learn more at tanner.org. #WeAreTannerStrong. That's tanner.org. #WeAreTannerStrong.
And we're back. Welcome to Community Voice. I am your host, Josh Engel. It is 8:44 a.m., Tuesday, June 23rd. I'm speaking with Paula Burke, the County Ag Agent with the UGA Extension Office and with the County the County Ag Group up there. So we have been talking about some of the online resources that have been that are currently available through their Facebook and website. So if you are just tuning in to the Facebook live stream, definitely go back and check out the beginning if you've missed that, because there are tons of super interesting and super fun resources available thanks to the hard work with the folks up at the Ag Center. So, Paula, Miss County Ag Agent, let's talk about gardening tips, because I know that you have a lot of folks that are working from home, and a lot of us have some firsthand knowledge of how therapeutic and important it is to be able to have your own garden. So
and in our area, every year we see a lot of clients that are having their own home garden. It seems like with everything that's been going on these last few months, people are home and really got the bug to actually have their own gardens for the first time. So that's wonderful. And hopefully they'll check out some of our online resources and trainings to really help them. One of the things we always suggest, and you can do it any time of the year, is to do a soil test. And for $9, you can test your soil in your garden. Or if you're a farmer, I always encourage pastures and your hay fields always be testing every few years to see what's going on in the soil to make sure you're meeting the nutrient requirements of that plant that you're trying to grow. In terms of a home garden, we need to make sure the pH is at the proper level, and then how much fertilizer nutrients may you need to add. There's a lot of issues that you'll find with your plants sometimes that are related to nutrition, that leaves might turn yellow or different coloring based on what the nutritional needs are. Ideally, I want to encourage people, if you like to grow a garden now, you really need to soil test your garden in the fall, because like September, October. And what that does is, if you do have a pH issue, then you need to add some lime in the fall to that garden so it's ready in 6 months. It takes lime about 6 months to do what it needs to do with the soil. And then the pH needs to be proper level so the plant can take up the nutrients. So soil test in the fall, add the lime if you need it, and then by next year this time, your garden will be in good shape. But that's not to say you can't do it year round, but so many people come in the spring and just want a soil test for what they're growing now, and really you want to do it about 6 months before in the real world. That would be one of the biggest things. And when usually people are having issues, we'll say, well, when was the last time you did a soil test? And we find out they never have. You can save yourself a lot of money in terms of not over fertilizing and wasting money that you might not necessarily need to do. The other big thing I'm seeing a lot, despite us constantly talking about it, and I just reposted yesterday on Facebook an article, I think it was from like 2012 actually, that you really need to be careful with adding manure or using hay that hasn't been, or especially the manure that hasn't been properly composted. So if you know a farmer down the road and you get a fresh load of manure and you dump it into the garden, I really discourage that right now because of some herbicide residue that generally tends to be in that manure, in that hay. So farmers are very diligent to try to grow the best crop that they can, either in their pasture, in the hayfield, and they use sometimes herbicides to keep weeds down. And so there's a few different herbicides that it remains in the hay, or when the animal eats the grass or eats the hay, it remains in their manure. And then you put it on your garden, and then you come to me and say, why do my tomatoes look all like literally like curled up? I should have tomato plant came in yesterday. I should have held on to it and not thrown it out. I could have brought it here today for you to see it. But all of a sudden, it literally like curls and twisted. And sure enough, they brought it in yesterday, and I said, that's definitely herbicide damage.
So it's like mutated.
Yeah. I don't know if mutate is the right technical term, but it just messes with the inside of the plant, and it just kind of curls up and changes. It looks totally green and healthy. It's not yellow or anything like that, but the new growth, which is all what we have right now because the new plants, just kind of curls up and looks twisted.
So the biochemistry is just affected.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And literally in this case, the folks I talked to, they put their garden in an area that they had horses in this past winter, and probably some manure and some of the hay the horses ate got incorporated into this garden. Because I always ask, did you add any manure? Did you mulch with any hay? Did you spray anything? Because that is the other way as well. Sometimes someone may be spraying and you might get a little bit of drift, but most cases they'll say, "Oh, we don't spray anything." And I said, "Well, where'd you get your manure? What did you mulch with?" And it's usually some sort of animal manure, and then they maybe mulch with some hay. And I said, "Well, that's where the damage came from." So the downside, this is the awful part, is it might take a couple of years before that residue breaks down in the soil. Tomatoes are the most affected. That's usually the first plant you see that has issues. Now, these folks brought in some peas and some okra, and I hadn't seen herbicide damage before, in those type of vegetables. And I sent it to one of our specialists. We have a ton of wonderful specialists across the state, and took some pictures. I said, "You think it's herbicide residue?" And he said, "Absolutely." So, but the first plants that you'll usually see is your tomatoes being affected. So be careful of, if you do use any kind of animal compost, make sure you get it from a reputable place that, it's been processed, it's sat for a number of years. You don't want to use fresh manure. That's probably the thing I want to say. You can use it, but you just want to make sure it has been through a good composting process. If you buy bagged manure at the store, it's going to go through some sort of process that is going to alleviate that problem for you.
Well, we actually had a great information, by the way. Yeah. But we also had a question that came on the live feed.
Wow, question. Yeah, I've never got a question before.
And it's our good friend Martina Griffin, the director of Keep Carroll Beautiful, who joined me recently, last week or the week before.
Hi, Marty.
Hey, Marty. She asked, what can we plant now to still enjoy veggies in the fall? Anything that will make it from the seed?
So, you can also have a fall garden. It might be a little bit early to think about in terms of planting for the fall garden. You might want to start some seeds maybe July or so, and then kind of later into August. You might be able to kind of flip your garden. In the middle of the heat of the summer, you want to make sure you water it, very, very well if you're going to put anything out. But probably in the next month you could start some seeds. We have the great seed cabinet up at the Ag Center. That was another thing, another best kept secret. We put that out when we were closed, and just tons of people came and got free seeds. That's something the master gardeners oversee and provide free seeds to people in the community. But I would say, next month start your seeds, and then probably by probably end of July or so, and then hopefully they'll be strong enough end of August to get your fall garden out. But your obviously your collards, you want to do into the wintertime, all those fall kind of crops, and I'm blanking on all the ones that we have out. But lettuces, generally, you don't want to do in the heat of the summer. You want to do them in the fall. But on our extension publications page, we have some great calendars. So there's really things you can only grow in the summertime, and then things that are more cooler season, your broccolis, your Brussels sprouts are probably a few as well that you can do in the fall. So if you are going to do a fall garden, soil test now for your fall garden. Just like I said, in the fall, soil test for your summer garden.
Hopefully that answers your question, Marty. That's a lot of great info.
She knows how to get a hold of me. We talk regularly.
Actually, that's great. Before we take our second break here, if someone does have additional questions about these, the ins and outs of gardening, how could they reach out to you?
So they can call us. They can send us an email. Our master gardening email is ccmg@uga.edu, or you can stop by. Obviously, just one at a time in the office. If you have a problem, bring it up. We like the whole plant. Like yesterday, they brought the whole tomato plant, roots and all. Make sure it's fresh, not dried out. We can't figure out what's wrong with dead things. It's got to be somewhat alive. If you have an insect, bring it in. Make sure it's whole and intact. If you don't want to come in, you can just take really good pictures, close-up pictures, and email them to us as well if you don't feel comfortable coming in. But we have trained volunteers. Our Carroll County Master Gardeners. Every day we have someone in the office that will assist you, and then obviously I step in as needed as well.
Perfect. Well, if you're just tuning in, we have the Facebook live stream going on, so be sure to go back and check out what you've missed. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, so stay with us.
For more than 70 years, you have turned to Tanner Health System for your healthcare needs. As our community moves forward, Tanner is here for you. Strong, safe, and close to home. Routine medical appointments, urgent elective surgeries, and imaging are back on the calendar at our hospitals and Tanner Medical Group practices. With the safety of our patients, staff, and community always our top priority. Learn more at tanner.org. # We Are Tanner Strong. That's tanner.org. # We Are Tanner Strong.
At Oak Mountain Academy, our daily schedule includes convocation, prayer, and the Pledge of Allegiance. By doing so, we build a family-like community where all students grow and flourish and personal faith is encouraged. Through community service and a historical approach to biblical study, our students are taught the value of the warrior way, honesty, respect, and responsibility. Oak Mountain Academy, we are a family creating legacies. To learn more, visit oakmountain.us.
And we're back to Community Voice. It is 8:56 a.m., June 23rd. I am your host, Josh Engel. We're talking with Paula Burke, the county ag agent. We only have about 4 minutes left. Before we speak briefly about the meat shortage situation, I did want to ask, you had one more point to make about grass, because I'm having trouble growing grass, and you just said something that's pretty important.
Yes. You need to grow grass that is appropriate to the season. So all of you out there trying to plant tall fescue grass right now, don't bother, don't waste your time. Tall fescue is a cool season grass. You got to plant it in the fall. You only plant warm season type things now. So your Bermudas, Bahayas, other types of grasses. So I'm constantly getting calls about why can't I grow my tall fescue, and it's in the middle of the summer. So it's a cool season grass. Please plant it in the fall.
Great information, and thank you for telling me that, because I just thought
That's your problem.
I thought my green thumb had disappeared. So the meat shortage, there's been a lot of talk in the news cycles about that the last few weeks. Do you have any commentary on that?
Just basically, there's still plenty of cattle animals out there. The problem really is the people that were actually processing the meat in different packing plants, out west. People were getting sick. They had decrease in staff, and so farmers, have animals that are ready to be processed, and they couldn't take them. So, then that means, what are we going to do instead? And then restaurants were closed. All those there's different cuts of meat that go to restaurants versus what goes to your grocery store, and it takes a little time to transition. I've been in the grocery stores the last couple weeks, and the shelves look a little bit more full. The problem is going to be those farmers that didn't know how to anticipate what was going to be happening a few months down the road may have a few less animals, and I think down the road you're going to see a little less meat possibly available, potentially. But hopefully, the packing facilities have gotten back up and going and getting things processed. When animals are ready, they're ready to go. You can't just hold on to them. They get to a certain size and weight, a finishing weight, and then they need to be processed. So that makes it very challenging. Unlike, a vegetable producer could back off a few rows of planting where, these animals have been going on for years and now they're ready to be processed. The other thing is we encourage people to buy local, try to find local meat producers, and that's wonderful, but we only have so many local meat processors here, and literally if you're a cattle farmer or any kind of livestock farmer out there, it'll be next year before you get any animals processed. That's how backed up most processing facilities are locally right now. So people are scheduling processing dates for animals that haven't even been born yet. And that might be a little hard to understand, but that's how booked our local meat processors are.
My goodness. Well, that's very clear perspective. So thank you for giving us that information. We have less than 1 minute left. So one more time, where can folks find the Ag Extension resources online?
Sure. For our website, it's extension.uga.edu. We're at the Carroll County Ag Center, 770-836-8546. Find our website as well. Email us. We're all here ready to help our Carroll County community.
Paula, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for tuning in.